Welcome, income hackers. This is your host, Ryan G. Wright. This podcast is for individuals and families who are interested in fast tracking their financial success. You'll hear experts discussing topics like generating a residual cash flow, building wealth through real estate, financial literacy, creating a family legacy, and overcoming your fears. If you get value out of this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. I want to make sure you understand who I am and where I come from. And I think that can bring some context on helping you be successful in becoming an income hacker and what we're trying to do. With that, the first thing that I really want to talk about is our dogma or our creed, if you will, who we are as income hackers, because I think that's probably one of the very most important things that we could talk about, because people need to understand who they belong to and what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. So I want to walk you through a little bit about what our creed is, what it is, and what it's not, who I am. This tells you so much about me before I get into kind of some details on how I got my start. So basically, our creed is that we're part of a peculiar group of people that you've probably never heard of before. We don't rely on outdated wisdom of delegating our financial success to others. And that's really important, because if you're just looking to say, hey, I'm going to give somebody some money and never have to worry about it again, or I'm going to plan on somebody else being responsible for my retirement, responsible for my income generation via the government or a financial planner, those types of things, then this probably isn't for you. We're not trust fund babies, and we don't get handouts from friends and from family, and especially not the government. That's really important. We're all self-made people. Anybody that's an income hacker is finding their way and doing that with the help of others. We totally believe in getting some help, but we don't believe in getting handouts. So hand-ups are okay. We're self-made, and we're just regular people. You know, we have struggles, we have challenges, we have kids, we have spouses, we have disagreements, we have worries. We're regular people, but we've worked hard and smart to learn, earn, invest, and give. And that's really what we're trying to do, is learn so that we can earn. That earned income we can then invest. That becomes passive or investment income. And that passive or investment income is something that we can then make the world a better place, both our own lives, our families' lives, and give to others as well as we see appropriate. We're looking to stretch each dollar as far as it can. And I probably should back up. When we talk about, there's three different types of income. There's trading dollars for hours, where I basically say, for every hour I work, I get so much paid. That's hours for dollars. The next rung up is results-based, which is typically commission, where you're taking on more risk and you're getting paid based upon the results you're getting. There's more to be paid. There's more to be had there, but you're responsible for delivering. That's the next rung up. And the next one is going to be passive or investment. And that's where you take the money that you've earned and you turn that into investment income. That investment income pays you whether you work or don't work, whether you are asleep or whether you're not, which could be rental properties or loans, or it could be joint ventures into different types of real estate syndication. So all those things are the different types of income types. You know, we're looking to stretch each dollar as far as it can go. And what we mean by that is you want to make sure you're getting the value or the pleasure and the return from what you want. So be very deliberate about what you spend your money on. Make sure it's something you really want to, and it's not just something you're doing just because. Because what we want to be able to do is create what we call a personal margin. And a personal margin is the money that you make that's maybe earned income. The bigger that margin can be, you can then invest that money into passive income. And there's really two ways to increase that margin. Way number one is to make more. So how can you create value in your current employment situation to get paid more money? Is there side hustles that you can be doing? And what real estate investment deals can you be doing to earn more money? Now, that's still earned income. Whether you're doing fix and flips or wholesales or working your day job, that's all earned income. So then the next element of this is, how much do you spend? So if you can reduce your burn rate, how much you spend, then you're able to create a margin. That margin is the difference between what you make and what you spend. So if you can decrease your spend and increase your income, you have margin. With that margin, you can then invest. And with that investment, you can start creating the passive income that we're all desiring. And that's what we are looking for and what we want to do. With that, we want to stretch each dollar as far as it can go because we want to get the most we can out of that return. We want to get the highest returns we can, and we want to get pleasure from it. There's lots of things that you're probably paying for that you're really not getting the type of pleasure that you want. And I'm not suggesting that you cut everything. But the more you spend, the harder it is to get out of the rat race that you may be in. The less that you spend, the easier it's going to be. Now, I'm not saying cut everything, cut everything, cut everything. What I am saying is be very deliberate about where you spend your money. There's probably a lot of things you're spending money on that you really aren't getting enough pleasure or value from. And those would be things that you probably should just cut. You just have it just because. There's other things you get a ton of pleasure from, and those are worth keeping, but be very deliberate about it. We're driven about who we become in the journey, and we find joy in the climb. You see, it doesn't matter where you're at in the process. If you're just getting started or if you're growing, the challenges are still there. I used to think that when I got a certain level of cash flow, when I had $5,000 a month of cash flow, that I would have made it. Well, guess what? I got to $5,000 of cash flow, and now that just doesn't do enough for me. I want more than that. So I'm working on building cash flow and those things just like anybody else is working on it. We're just at different stages of life, you could say. The other thing I think is really important here is that everybody's on a climb. And even the guy you think who's made it is also on a climb as well, because when you make it to the next peak, there's another peak behind it that you want to climb. And the reason we do that is because we find joy in the climb and we become someone in the process. We become better leaders, better people, better communicators. We learn all these skill sets as we are going through the journey. And that's what our motivation is to change our relationship with money to be our servant rather than our master. When you look at the statistics today and how little income there is and how much disposable income gets sent around, we really want to make money our servant rather than our master. Because of that, it allows us to make the world a better place because we can become our best selves as we aren't worried about money all the time. We can be our best individuals. We can be a better spouse. We can be better parents, and we can be leaders in our families and community. Lots of times those things take some time. And if we're so worried about how we're going to deal with money, we're not able to be our best selves. And being an income hacker gives us the ability to do that. We also really just understand that money's a tool. Money is a unit of trade. Money doesn't bring happiness nor sadness, but it is necessary for us to be able to survive. But it's nothing more than a tool. And these money mindsets, we literally believe will lower stress, anxiety, and fear. Money is such a cause of divorces. Money is such a cause of people that are going through difficult financial decisions typically make poor decisions when it comes to the way they communicate or the way they work with their spouse. And so we really believe that being an income hacker can do so much more. It's not about the money. It's about what the money can provide for you and how you utilize that can bring the lifestyle that you're looking for. So we believe that being an income hacker can save marriages, remove people from bondage, and give our minds the freedom that we have to create. I believe the work of creation is probably the most noble work out there. And we all want to create, whether that's having houses create into something new, whether that means to make something that's there. I'm creating a podcast that wasn't there before. I'm creating a movement with Income Hacker, and I hope you'll join me in it. The goal for us is to change our lives and our families' lives for generations to come. And this isn't just about wealth. I have mixed views about leaving wealth to future or to other generations. But I definitely believe in leaving money mindsets and income hacking to legacy so that they understand the financial principles and they can take those actions themselves if they so choose to. I'm a big believer of agency and them making the decision and being able to, but I want to educate them and educate my kids. One of the most motivating things in doing this, and the reason I'm doing the podcast, is so that I can take complex principles and the keys to success that aren't as complex and simply diagnose and say those at the level that a 7-year-old would understand so that I can leave my boys the secrets of success for generations to come they can choose what to do with them. We teach ourselves and especially others, including our children and our posterity, principles such as how to generate income. So, literally, how to make income, living below our means. To create a personal margin. We talked about that, making more and living on less so we can have the difference, that margin. And then what we do is we turn that personal margin into greater financial returns. With that, we are able to teach financial education. We like to teach discipline, delayed gratification. So many people just have to have it now, but if you're willing to wait for that. One of the things I really believe in is don't buy your doodads, don't buy your your watch, whatever the case is, with earned income. Buy it with passive or investment income, because what you don't do in that situation is you don't kill the chicken that's laying the eggs. You buy more chickens. So if you take money and you invest it, you still have the money you've invested, plus you have the income coming off that money. And if you use that money to then buy things, that money will continue to come in as long as you don't do something stupid. Plus, you'll still have the initial asset. And so there is some delayed gratification there. But in doing that, you're setting yourself something up that can last for forever if it's done appropriately. We teach the proper use and role of money. We teach how to budget and plan for the future while living fully present in the now. And that's really important because we're not trying to give up satisfaction and fulfillment now. We may be giving up delayed gratification, but that doesn't mean that happiness is tied to money. One of the things that's really interesting is, my wife and I go on a date night. We can spend several $100s on a date night, or we can spend $5 or no money on a date night. And the money we spend on that date night doesn't necessarily make that a more pleasurable or less pleasurable experience. We can go to the park and talk. We can go on a walk, or we could go to, a theater or go see a movie or something like that. But just because we're doing that doesn't necessarily make the experience better or worse. It just makes it different. And so it's something to keep in mind, because we don't necessarily need money to drive the happiness, to drive the joy, to drive the connection. Most time those things are built in relationships. And making those relationships with our posterity, our kids, grandkids, whatever the case may be, is really where the happiness comes from, which is why this is all about building and showing income hacker principles for generations to come. Let's see here. We talk about the proper use and role of money. We talk about how to budget and plan for the future while living fully present now. That's what we just talked about. Next is we marvel at the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. Literally, I believe anybody can become a quarter millionaire, half a millionaire, or even a millionaire if you choose to. There's the slow boat to China way. The slow boat to China is basically putting in, $10 a week or $5 a week and putting that into some type of a mutual fund and just leaving it there for 40 years and letting it compound. You'll end up with $250,000 to $1 million, depending upon your age. So anybody can do that. The question is if you want to income hack. And if you want to income hack, the question is, can we do that in 7 years or less than 10 years? And one of the ways we do that is by understanding compound interest. Albert Einstein said that it's the eighth wonder of the world, and we really believe it. He went on to say that it's the principles that govern the entire universe, which I find even more amazing. We look at all decisions based upon the return that we'll get from the investment of time, money, emotional or relationship capital it will cost. What's important here is everything costs money. So everything costs capital, not money. It may be financial capital or emotional capital, but there's capital that is given. And so we want to make sure that we make decisions based upon that. We fight against Wall Street's so-called financial advisors, including stockbrokers and others who are just glorified salesmen. So I'm not saying that these are bad people, but without having the full picture of what we know as income hackers, they're not able to fully help someone. Keep in mind, a lot of things that are sold on Wall Street are sold based upon the commission that's derived by the person selling it, not necessarily based upon what's best interest of the individual. And there are some people that care about that, but there's so much better ways we believe in doing it, and that's the income hacker way. We're against useless financial products that leverage our hard-earned money to make Wall Street richer. We fight lazy dollars and find quality opportunities to get our money warriors working for us. And this is a big one. Lots of people have money in a 401k or an IRA, or they have money sitting, or they have some cash, but they're worried to get it working. So our whole goal is to get money warriors working for us. that can go out there and make more of them. And that is an important principle of income hacking. Each investment we take is with our own money, and we're responsible for the outcome, good or bad. So we've got to make every single dollar count. So we don't have this margin for error. We're not playing with the house's money. We're not using somebody else's money, although we leverage other people's capital, but it's our money at risk here. We know that financial independence can be achieved in less than 10 years by following a simple process called income hacking. If you ask financial advisors or Wall Street or college textbooks, they'll tell you what we do is impossible. But the reality is it happens every single day. And it's not something I can tell you. It's something I need to show you. And you'll be able to do that through this podcast. These are stories. There's glimpses of individuals just like you who have a dream and a vision and want to change the world in their own little way. As income hackers, we use processes to help make our dreams a reality. We are income hackers, and these are our stories. That is our manifesto. If you're an income hacker right now, you should be saying, these are my people, and this is my tribe. This is where I belong. And I hope that resonates with you, because that's what I'm trying to do here, or I'm going to do here, and I'm in the process of doing, is creating a movement. And with this movement, I believe that I can change the world in my own little way. And that will have an impact on generations to come, both for my own 2 children and for many people who will be listening to this for generations to come as well. And that's why I'm putting so much time and effort into these types of things. So with that in mind, I want to dive in a little bit to my story and where I came from. So I'm going to start, even way, way, way back. So when I was a kid, I was fortunate enough to be born to parents that believed in some financial principles. My dad was a chiropractor, and he started investing in some different real estate. But even before that, my grandfather was in Southern California, and he was an HVAC contractor. So he would do furnaces and air conditioning units and those types of things. And on the side, he'd pick up a job and buy a property, fix it up, or buy a house, move into it and fix it up and sell it a couple of years later, or just buy a property, fix it up and sell it. So this was before HGTV. This was before it was popular, before anybody was talking about it. And so he was able to do some of those and even buy some rental properties, including some commercial properties. And so, that was kind of in the genes or kind of in the DNA. Now, that didn't mean I had all the answers by any stretch of the imagination. And I'll tell you more as time goes on about my story and how scared to death I was to actually do some of my first real estate deals. And that's one part of listening to this podcast is there are these income or these mind shifts that have to happen for success to come. It's commonly said that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And I found that very true in my life. So with that, my dad, like I said, was a chiropractor. And so he wanted to invest in real estate as well. His CPA, he talked to him. And although he'd seen his dad do some things, his CPA, as he started making some money, said, they're not making any more land. And because they're not, there's a supply and demand issue and the population continues to grow, values are going to continue to go up. So my dad decided to start investing in plexes, duplexes, threeplexes, fourplexes, try and buy something low, fix the property up, or increase its use. So for example, one year my dad bought a fourplex, and he turned it into a sixplex. There was carports on the end, and he was able to enclose those and turn that into living quarters as studios, then bring the parking out. So they had parking on the outside and be able to increase that into a highest and best use, thus increasing the property value tremendously. So I grew up doing things, helping paint, helping clean out, whatever it took. And sometimes I had the pleasure of doing that even with my grandfather, who was able to teach me a few things. Now, one of the things you don't want to learn from your grandpa that does HVAC, that kind of thinks he's an electrician, is which wires to cut up in the attic. So one time I was up in the attic and he's like, "Hey, cut the wire over there. It should be there." And he's down, looking at it. I cut the wrong wire and it's a 110 line and I'm, getting shocked. That's not a thing. To this day, I hate electrical work. I don't like touching it because I've had such bad experiences. But for the most part, I could do it if I had to. And that's really, not everybody needs to go and do the labor themselves. But it was a great foundation for me because I couldn't get good taken advantage of when it came to prices or how hard things were. And I really understood what it took to make different things happen on a property. And so my dad continued to do that. Now, he was a low leverage guy. So he would buy a property and he'd buy one every 3 or 4 years, try and pay it down or pay it off, and then buy another one and do the same thing, improve it, put more money into it, increase rent, and continue down that while he was working as a chiropractor and was eventually able to have a really decent passive income coming in. During the same time, my mom and dad were teaching financial principles. And that was really, and they were doing it maybe without even talking about it, but watching the financial principles. So one of the things that I grew up is I just kind of had this entrepreneurial streak in me. So I was always looking for what can I sell or how can I make a buck? Kind of the side hustle idea that is talked about so much today that wasn't popular when I was a kid. How can I make some money? This comes back to trading hours for dollars or being full commission. Some of my earliest ventures as a entrepreneur came when my dad approached me and, excuse me, he said, my carpets at the office are getting cleaned monthly and it's pretty expensive. And so I was thinking maybe you could go buy a carpet cleaning machine and I'll lend you the money to do that. And then you can pay me back, and then you can also start doing some other jobs in the neighborhood. And I was probably 15 when this happened. And so he gave me a loan, and I went and I got trained on how to do carpet cleaning, and I was able to buy a machine, and then I could go to the office, and that could pay for my loan to him. And then I could go around the neighborhood and haul my carpet cleaning machine around and make some money. That actually continued to grow, where I bought a full van and a truck mount machine and put it inside there. And I was able to go and I was able to clean carpets all over. It grew to the point where I had some really big customers as I started knocking on doors and doing some marketing. So if you've ever heard of Brighton Ski Resort, they were a customer of mine. If you've ever heard of Franklin Day Planners, they were a customer of mine. If you've ever heard of some of these different places, they were customers of mine where I would go and clean their carpets, and which worked out great. Clean the carpets, clean it up. Now I don't know how many of these places I got the job because I was because of my age and because they saw I was trying to hustle and make something happen, or if it's because I was doing such a great quality work, or a combination of both. But I'll be forever grateful for those. It was hard. If you think of being 16 years old and driving around and trying to get some of these places to do business with you, one, they're probably wondering if I'm dependable or anything else like that. But it was a huge growing experience for me. With that, I was featured in the local newspapers. I was even nominated to be the Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and I was a finalist in that, and things continued to grow. I also had some great mentors. When I was a senior in high school, I had someone that was there that was a counselor who came from an entrepreneurial family. They owned a business or a bakery together, and with that, they got me work release so I could go and work on my business while I was in school and get school credit for that, which was super, super beneficial for me. Now, one of the things I learned in being in the carpet cleaning business is I'm really trading hours for dollars, and I didn't realize that. Now, I may have been increasing my hours for dollars rather than working at Taco Bell for $5 an hour, or I don't know what minimum wage was at the time. I was able to make $50 an hour, so I had a higher paying job, but I was still trading hours for dollars, meaning I had to be there to push the wand in order for me to get paid. And so I said, I want to try something else. And so I ended up selling my carpet cleaning company to another company. I think it was Rainbow Cleaning. I can't remember. And they bought my truck, and they bought my truck mount, and they bought my customer base. And with that seed money, I was able to start a mat and matting company. The reason I did this is because the idea with mats is I could put a floor mat down. And so when I say mats and matting, next time you walk into like a restaurant and you look down on the floor, there's probably like a custom mat that says, Bill's Bar and Grill or whatever it says. And the company comes and leaves the mat. They take the dirty mat, lay down a clean one, they do a rotation. And so the idea is that I could get paid even when I was sleeping because I would be getting paid continually on a residual income base. Luckily, again, I had great parents that were willing to take some risks And so I needed to rent a facility. Well, the problem was is I wasn't 18 years old yet. And so I couldn't legally rent a facility. So I got my mom and dad to rent a place where I was able to put a huge commercial washing machine. And we had to bolt it down. I had to buy the commercial washing machine and figure it out. And then I had to create drying racks and all this type of thing. And then had to start ordering these mats. And so I went around to businesses and I knocked on doors and I talked to people. And I was able to land some pretty big accounts. Zuka Juice that was bought by Jamba Juice eventually. I had some big floral companies and other things. The Zuka Juice is probably the biggest national chain that you've probably heard of, Jamba Juice. Those were customers of mine here in the local area where I lived because I would go and I would deliver the floor mats and pick up the old one. And there was two things. I could just give you a floor mat, or I could give you a floor mat that actually had your logo and those things designed in that. If you did that, there was an upfront cost. If you did the other, it was just, you paid a fee and we'd come and change those out for you. And so I was able to get these mats down and I was getting paid, but I only had to go once a week. And so I was able to learn and grow with that company as well. Which was a great experience for me. I learned a lot from that experience, and I learned how to really make some serious money. With that, then I ended up selling that company a few years later. I ended up going on a mission for my church, and about a year into that, I was able to sell that company, which was amazing for me because I was able to get a residual income every single month on the sale of the company. And to make it even better, once I was married, that paid my car payment for a long time to come. And so it was really, really critical and helpful. But I was able to learn all these life lessons early on in my life of entrepreneurship, of trading hours for dollars versus commission-based versus investment versus, cash flow versus financial principles and all these types of things. So that it really started foundationally for me in being a hustler and then finding these different ways to do things. The other thing that was really important here that I've got to point out is not being afraid to try things. I think people are just so afraid to fail that they don't even start in the beginning. And that's really a mistake. And it's not about the failure. The failure is when you quit trying. It's not about the setbacks, because setbacks are just part of the journey. The failure is when you stop trying. And I find so many people are just looking for acres of diamonds in the wrong places rather than just getting into something and going and making it happen. And it takes a lot of trial and error and not giving up. And I think with that mindset of being a 16-year-old knocking on doors, asking them if they would do business with me versus a big Fortune 500 company, I got used to hearing no, and I knew that a no was just one step closer to a yes. And I knew that it was a numbers game. And I knew that if I improved my skill set, I could get a higher number, or I just needed to ask so many people. The idea was if I asked a million people, would someone say yes? Probably. If I asked 1,000 people, would someone say yes? Probably. If I asked 100 people, would somebody say yes? Probably. If I asked 10 people, would someone say yes? Maybe. So what can I do to make that yes easier is I can increase my skill sets, or I can change my strategy, how I'm going about that. And so I was able to work on both. I was able to work on my sales skills. I was also able to work on my marketing, and I was able to work on how I did things. Now, when I share this story with you, you might say, well, hey, man, Ryan, he's just, he's just able to do it. He's done it his whole life. He's lucky. I just don't believe that. I believe is when luck is when preparation meets opportunity. The idea is, as I was able to get preparation very, very early in my life, and I was fortunate enough to have some good mentors that were able to share with me how to do things, and I wasn't afraid to take the risk and get the no. So I think it's a combination of both. So no matter where you're at in your income hacker, as an income hacker, you can start now. And you can follow my pathway, which will make it easier for you because you can learn from the experiences that I've made and the mistakes I've made to make it easier for you to move forward. And that's kind of the best thing. What I always tell people is, hey, if you want to do something, find who's doing it and follow in their footsteps, because you'll learn so much regardless of the cost or the price to get involved with that. If you actually implement, you'll learn so much more. It can save you from thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of $1,000s of cost or pain or anything else. And so you want to follow along with someone that you feel like has been where you want to go and is there now. So I think those are some of the big principles that I wanted to get into. So this kind of gets into like my childhood, how I grew up, the businesses that I started early on, and gets us to the point where we're going to be talking about my college days and what I did and how that launched me into even further into becoming an income hacker and launched me into more exposure with real estate. Stay tuned. We'll talk more next time. Income hacker, it's now time to take action. What's the next step for you? Take one thing and do it. There is no way you can do everything, so pick the one that will have the biggest impact on your life and go make it happen. If you got value out of our discussion today, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. Also, please share with a friend. There is nothing more valuable than creating financial friends who are like-minded. You can do that by inviting them to join the Income Hacker podcast. Bye for now, and make it a very profitable day.